operator syndrome. I've got a new person here with me. I'm going to be talking with Jose. Jose is an old friend of mine. We joined up and served in the Ranger Regiment together. We're going to go through his story. We thought it would be a nice way to branch out from from my own personal story and Steve's story, and we started thinking about who could we talk to, who should we talk to. I don't think you can tell my story without this guy right here. That's how important to my story and my experience as a ranger he was and is. And and it's going to be a bit of a different feel from Steve. Not better, not worse. It's just going to be different, but that's okay. I also think it's a good way to look at service from a different perspective, because I think Jose definitely has a different perspective, as we all do, as all individuals do. But Steve's going to be talking to some folks. He's going to be talking with David, a reconnaissance Marine, and I figured, hey, let's get another Ranger in here, a better Ranger than me. So Jose did how many years altogether?
I think it was like 2005. I think like maybe like 11 or just under 11 or something like that.
We'll call it 11 years. Um, Served in line company, line platoon, did weapon squad time, um, went to the sniper section, did that, and did some other cool things. So an interesting career. We look forward to hearing about it. Um, so let's get into it then for this
All
first
right.
episode, this introductory episode.
Okay.
Let's go back 2005.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting times.
Yes.
I talked about why I showed up. Why did you join the army? What were you thinking?
Uh well, I mean, everyone was going. I'm joking. No man, I had a family and just you said it earlier a couple episodes ago. I was working. I was working already, but you see the news and stuff like that. And I was a young man. I was like, man, these guys over there, doing their thing, and some of them are dying. I don't want to say it's guilt, but it's also a sense of responsibility. What else? And I need to do my part. Also, the money was apparently not so much the money part, but it's the job. You know what I mean? So
It was
there's
work.
also that. Yeah, it's work. It's work. It's work, and although I honestly didn't know how it works. I can't say I did it money for the money or anything because I wasn't 100% sure how it worked once you joined. But I did do it mainly because, a sense of, responsibility as a man at the time.
So you had to reinforce that. So you got kids, you got
Mm-hmm.
twin girls at the time, right?
Yeah, twin daughters at the time and a very small
And
boy.
yeah, so three. And then um, what kind of jobs were you working at the time? What were you doing before you joined?
Oh man. Uh, I had two jobs at the time, and the third one that kind of went on and off. I was working in the mornings. I worked at a hospital. I was a what you call it? You call it like it's like
Orderly?
I mopped the floors a lot of mopping, buffing floors. I was uh, a master of the custodial arts
Okay, yeah.
at the time. And then there was in the morning, and then at night I would go work at an office building, same thing. Uh, but it was more like a maintenance thing, I guess. No, not really. It was still buffing floors and stuff like that. And then in the mornings, I work construction if it was good weather and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go off and on and off on warehouses. So those are good jobs at the time too. You didn't need a lot. That's what I'm saying. You could just go there and sign up and they're hard. Jump in there and you will work. So that's also because I didn't have a uh, you know you you work what you can do. You
Mm-hmm.
can't if you don't have a degree or something
Mm-hmm.
at the time. So Yeah.
How old were you?
Man, I was 20 years old.
Okay. Yeah, you seemed old to me. Um,
Yes.
but 20, but
Wise?
I was 18. Yeah,
No, no.
not wiser. I don't know about wiser,
Well, okay.
but older, older.
You
Uh,
looked up to me, that's what you're saying. Once you got there, tag along to this guy.
so
It was my second rotation through it too, so I had to explain.
we're gonna get into all that.
Oh yes, yes.
So you okay. So that's the motivation. You got a
Mhm.
family you got to take care of.
Family.
You're
Yes, sir.
working multiple jobs.
Yes.
Um, but then the news back then, 2005, it wasn't like a rosy picture of military service. It wasn't like, before the war had started, like I like to remind folks 2004, 2005, like the nightly news would end with the pictures of
Yeah.
the soldiers that died in the last
Yeah.
24 hours. That's what it
Yep.
was like back then.
Yep.
So even knowing that combat was likely, you still the pressures of needing to take care of your family, and but also to do your part, the
Yeah,
sense of
man.
the sense of service, it was still strong enough to overcome that and for you to still enlist.
Yeah. But you can understand, man. Like let's go back to like September 11 when it happened. You know, I don't know. I was one of the ones that tried to join in, but I was either too young or something happened. Something that I think it was too young still at the
Mm-hmm.
time. But you wanted that fight. I'm like, man, because it's your house, it's your home, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then as you get older, maybe my decision making process wasn't the best at the time. Thus, 3 kids at 20. You know what I mean? Although I don't forget anything like that, but not the smartest. But I did understand that, hey man, this is still my country, and you see it, and you like you say, you see it on the news and stuff like that. And my girls were small. My son was, like, he was maybe he was like 3 months when I left.
Mm.
So, he didn't really know much, but I already made the decision because eventually, they're gonna ask questions like, "Hey, where were you during that time?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, you have to answer that. Not to say there's anything wrong if you didn't join or anything like that. That
Right.
everybody, as long as you're working, providing for your family, I think that's exactly what a man needs to do. So wherever you are, that's what you're doing. That's great. But for me, it's one of those things where I wanted to answer. Hey, I did my part. As hopefully one day you'll do your part for your country and so on. So that was a big factor. The fact that I want my kids to know that I did my part too. So
Okay, so you enlisted, and then uh why the infantry?
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I enlisted, and then, from my understanding, and I come from we come from a very I'm not trying not to make it into a funny thing, but it is what it is. We don't. I didn't know much about the military. I'll be honest with you, I didn't know there were so many branches. I probably would have gone to the army, but I went to the first one I knew. And true story, I used to clean all those recruiting stations, so I knew some of the guys there, and they were always telling me. But I was like, I gotta go in there. I don't know. But eventually, I show up and I said, well, what do I gotta do? I just walked into the army one. I didn't look anywhere else, and the guy said, well, this is what you got to do. I was missing a couple of things, but the sergeant there at the time said, "Nah, man, I'll help you out with all this stuff. If you really want to go, we'll fix this." And I'm like, okay. And then, but I still don't know anything. And he's the one that did the paperwork. He said, "Don't worry, this is just basic." He said basic army stuff. I said, "Okay, you're gonna go through the same training as everybody." I don't know what infantry is at the time. I was kind of I'm not embarrassed to say it, but I was kind of like, okay, as long as I'm in there, I'll figure it out once I'm in there. And then it's just that I was just told what to do, and I went and I did it, basically. You know what I mean? And then I asked questions, of course, during the MEPS or the 30th AG year, whatever we first get there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I little by little by asking around, you figure out, okay, this is what we do, okay, and then just kind of just do what you're told.
So you didn't realize you were you had paperwork that told you, but you didn't realize you were an infantryman until you got to 30th AG. And for those who don't know, that's the in processing unit at Fort Benning at Sand
Yes.
Hill, where they train infantrymen. So, okay, so you found out there. You were like, they were,
And I know it sounds hard to believe, man, but and I'm pretty sure I've told the story so many times, and I laugh about it because it is funny now that I think about it.
yeah,
But I'm gonna say, I think, and maybe it's just me. I don't know about you, but you're a totally different person before the military, and then you're a better person, smarter. I think, at least more aware after you join the military.
sure.
I mean, so I was not that bright, I guess, when I was young. I'm not saying I'm bright now, but at the moment, man, you at least should know where you're going. You know what I mean? Apparently, you get paid in the military to draw pictures. Did you know that? I know you know that because I told you that once. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
find that out until later on. You know, if I would have known all these jobs were available, maybe, but also it was whatever the gentleman. I trusted the recruiter, and I don't regret anything. You know, I'm glad
And
I ended up where I ended up.
you didn't come from. And I think you had an uncle um, back home who might have served in the military, but like U.S. military service
No,
was not a thing in your family.
no,
Military service in general, was that even a thing, or was just that one uncle?
no. That was that one uncle, but
Okay,
that's a different country, a different
right,
circumstances. You know what I mean?
right, right.
So it was
So
different.
so you didn't have a lot of context of what you were doing. You were just feeling patriotic. You had the duty to your family.
Mm.
Um, you mentioned a few things that you needed help with from the recruiter. You were just thankful to be able to have the
Yeah,
opportunity, and whatever opportunity that was, you were like, I'll do it. Sort of.
yeah.
Yeah, that was sort of your perspective. So when you enlisted, you hadn't even heard of the Rangers.
No, I have no idea who the Rangers were.
Had you
No.
seen before you enlisted? Had you seen Con Air?
Uh, yes.
Okay, so
With The Rock.
you didn't know that that was the future awaiting you.
Dude, I was just glad that guy was getting out of jail. I felt that. I'm joking. No, no, I seen kind of, I didn't put anything together. You know,
I didn't either. I knew what Rangers were, and I it didn't even occur to me that Nick Cage was a Ranger in that movie
second
until
bad.
after. Yeah.
There's
So now it's in my top 10 list. So okay. You come in. You're in now. You're in the army.
Mhm.
You're in the army now. Um, you
Very
talked
much.
about 30th AG. Just there are a million basic training stories out there. We don't need to beat it to death.
Yes.
Any moments from basic training stick out in your mind as like,
Um, Man, and there's so many, but I think there's one where uh I'm trying to think what's there's a lot, especially when you don't think like whenever you don't think you're gonna make it, or you get like when I get to basic. JVG was fun. I got stuck there for like a month for different reasons. Not I was in trouble or nothing. It's just they had to check some paperwork, and then I just kind of got stuck there for like a month. That
mhm,
after the first week, the drill sergeants they were nice, not nice, but they were like they left me alone, I guess. But then basic happened, and then basic training, um, it's one of those things where like, man, I don't know, because now you're doing PT, now you're waking up at with people yelling at you and stuff like that. Um, there was a moment in in basic training when I first got there where I thought, man, I'm not gonna make it. But I didn't want to sound like I was a quitter or anything like that. No, nobody else was quitting. There's a moment I guess in basic training where you're like, no, this is it. They're gonna kick me out, and then you surpass that. You actually rise up to the challenge, and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna be just fine. And then
mhm.
after that, there was nothing that I was like, no, I'm not gonna make it. No, I'll make it work. That's what I said.
How did you feel about, like, again, when I met you, I was 18, you were 20, so in basic training, what's it like being a 20-year-old with kids and a family? amongst um 17, 18, 19-year old infantry recruits? Did you find yourself lacking patience at all? Did you find yourself
I found that everybody's a tough guy when you're young, and that they don't realize that what you're doing there, no matter how lonely or sad you might feel, just remember why you're doing it. You see what I'm saying? So, for example, there's kids that some guys miss their girlfriends a lot. Uh, some guys
mm-hmm,
miss their parents a lot.
mm-hmm,
And they were, they were, you have that sentiment, those people that get really sentimental when they talk and stuff like that. I miss my kids, and obviously, um, and and my wife at the time, maybe I guess, but it wasn't so much that I missed them, but I was like, man, I'd rather be away from you guys, but providing. So I knew in my head they're gonna be fine as long as they're getting what they need. But and so I could separate that and then feel fine no matter what was happening. But there was guys that I don't know, they weren't immature, but they were like they were having trouble separating that I'm here for you for what I got to do, and everybody else becomes gonna be fine. So I would see that almost like something a kid would do, but not much different. We were all sucking the same. So
mm-hmm. So so where did you pick up the Ranger thing then? Where, because you went in our time, we had to do airborne first. So did you pick up a Ranger contract in basic training?
nope, just walked right up to the fence. And I'm joking. No, it was right after airborne school.
Wait, so how did you get? So your recruiter hooked you up with an airborne contract?
Airborne infantry is what they said.
So
And
that's what they got. So that was your paperwork headed in.
yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
I was supposed to go to Alaska,
Oh,
and
okay.
then there was a gentleman. He was I don't know if you say his name, but I can say his last name, right? I don't know his first name. But I remember his first name. But he was a cool dude. He went through airborne with me, and we had a whole bunch of adventures in airborne. And then the day we graduated, there was nobody there for him. There was nobody there for me. And he goes, "Hey man, they're recruiting for the Ranger regiment, for the Rangers." And I'm like, "What's that?" He goes, "I'm not sure, but they only deploy for like a month, and then they're back." And I'm like, he's like, instead of like a year, and I'm like, yeah, let's go check it out. I'm like, let's do it, man. And so we get there. Funny story. We get there, and the guy said, "Come tomorrow at this little. Remember the Patches building in Fort Benning, and behind the airborne school.
You mean
I'm
it
in,
had patches on it, like different,
yeah, yeah, by the towers. It had all the patches. Anyways,
vaguely.
it was called the Patches building, I think. Uh, the next day we had graduated. We walk over there, and before that, we had to fill out an application or whatever it was that we had to fill out. And at the bottom, why do you want to join the Rangers? I remember this guy wrote something funny and like very motivated to join. And I was like, for a better opportunity, something simple. So the next day we show up, and I kid you not, there's 18 guys already there, plus I think 4 or 5 of us that guys that already had the contract, 18, and then 5 of us. And then the 18 were quitting. They were dropping their contract at that building. They didn't want to do it. So we get there and we had to fill out another paperwork. And I was like, hey, I said, Sergeant, I need a pin. He goes, and he said, hold on, wait for one of the quitters to be done. But the way he was you could tell, I'm pretty sure it was one of those drill instructors, not drill instructors, but one of those RIP instructors that I forgot his, I don't know if you can mention name either, but very strong worded man. He goes, wait for one of these quitters to be done, and he'll give you a pin. And you go, oh, here you go, here's your pin. Fill it out. I'm like, all right. And then he got them all out, and then he showed us a video. This is what we'll be doing, and then by tomorrow we need to know the Ranger Creed at whatever time. And I forgot how it went, but they gave us a creed, and then we went back to the barracks. They're gonna pick us up the next day at a certain time, and sure we needed to know it, and then we had to say it to them, and then there was I think four more guys the next morning, including myself and Miguez, and Miguez, and the other guy, and then and the first thing the guy they pull up in a bus, the Rangers pull up in a bus, and they're like, before you get in the bus, anybody wants to quit right now. I don't want you to do it up at the when we get where we have to go. And then two people quit, but they were the way they asked, and I was like, what the heck did I get myself into already? But in my head, I'm like, it's just a month over there, and you come back. It was not a month. Obviously, it's different. And then obviously the
So
you know how it works.
so okay. Okay. So guy just throws it out. Hey, it seems like it's a better situation over there.
Yes.
You're
Yeah.
like, screw it, better than Alaska. Were you worried at all about going to Alaska, or you didn't care? You're like, if that's what I got to do, I got to do.
I was, and so I was going off from what people would say. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
This goes, hey man, this guy had deployed for 16 months. I think what
Mm-hmm.
they said. And I was like,
Yeah.
16. And I was like, man, and he only came home for like a week. I'm like, good God. And then so the other guy's like, nah, man, these guys only deployed for so much. He was obviously wrong. His information was wrong, but it didn't matter. You know what I
Right.
mean? I at this point, I don't know. To be completely honest, I don't know what special operations is.
Mm-hmm.
Don't even know that's what these guys were. So like I said, we filled out the application.
Well,
We
hold
got
on one second. Just hold on one second. I've never processed this. So did your recruiter tell you that you were going to be jumping out of planes?
I
So
learned that in basic the last week.
so how did you feel when you learned like you had signed up for this additional school, this additional.
I was just happy we were leaving basic, right? And this guy goes, man, now we gotta go to airborne. I'm like, what? I'm like, what's that for? He goes, you signed your contract, man. The guy knew my information. Someone was, we're gonna go to airborne. We're talking about airborne school. I was like, I said, no, I was just, I was saying that for you. Like, I'm not really gonna go there. He goes, nah, man, it's in your contract. And I was like, what is that exactly? Because we're gonna, and I'm like, oh, okay. But I played off, oh, yeah, yeah, for sure, yeah. But I'm like, I don't want to do that. And then some guy said, no, man. And then another guy goes, dude, they give you like $500 every time you jump. I'm like, a month? He goes, yeah. And I was like, all right. I don't know, let's do it. But it wasn't that, obviously. It was totally different.
That's
And then
funny.
and you couldn't pull back from it. I didn't even know how to quit it, to be honest with you. Again, just tell me what to do, man. I'll go do it. That was my motto, I think, in the military.
That's interesting. You don't hear that story very often. You're not listening to another one of these podcasts and you hear about dude just going along. All right, fine, airborne. All right, fine,
Sure.
airborne. All right, fine, rip. I'll
Yep.
go to rip. So okay, so now that I had to circle back to that because if you were that surprised about the tone of rip, it seemed like it would seem good for the audience to go back to thinking about how the airborne school piece would have gone. So when you actually like, okay, so you knew beforehand, you did your jumps, okay. So you said the day you signed up, there were 18 people quitting,
Dropping the contracts, yes.
dropping the contract, and then another two the next. So 20 people quit before it even
Oh
started.
yeah. The first yeah, like 18 people in the little
Mm-hmm.
building dropping their contract. Then the next day it was me, the other kid, and I want to say like maybe four more people. And
Mm-hmm.
they put us, they made us say the creed and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bus pulls up and he goes, before I wait, you know how they talk, man. They're like, before I waste my time, basically, putting you on
Yeah,
the bus and taking you up there. If you're gonna quit, like, raise your hand, quit now. And then like a very stern voice. And I was like, man, you know. And then, but I didn't want to make him angry. So I'll just stay. And then this guy just raise your hand. He goes, good, get your stuff, pull on that to the side. And I'm like, go ahead and grab the stuff. And I was like, and then they told us to get in front of the bus, not inside the bus, in front of the bus, and start following this other guy. He's gonna be running, follow him. And if this bus touches you, you're going to worldwide, which is another thing that I didn't know what it was. It didn't sound good, so I was like, nah, I'll just make sure the bus doesn't touch me. So I'm running with two sea bags up this damn hill along with everybody.
The sea bags are duffel bags, the old school
Yes.
green duffel bags for those who don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so you didn't get to ride, so you got to run from
We all
airport
did.
school up
Yeah.
the hill to the brown fence,
Yes.
as we call it.
Yeah.
Um, okay, and at this point, you're feeling like you're doing something different. This is definitely different from the rest of your army experience up to this point.
Mhm.
You're sensing that
I'm sensing that. But I'm tell you what, man.
foreboding, the dark clouds rolling in, all of that.
It changes. Yeah, when you yeah, man, you can see the trees start dying towards you closer to the damn brown fence.
Oh yeah, and so your buddy who talked you into this, like, were you looking, like, were you getting anything from him? Did you also?
It's one of those things, man, where you look. The thing is, it wasn't like I was being punished and he was fine. Nah, man. If I was and if I was sucking, he was sucking. You know what I mean? And or you know, what's a better word for that? I don't want to say that. If he was struggling, I was struggling. You know,
Hmm.
it was a so I didn't even have the opportunity to go because he was like, oh, you know, getting beat up too. So um what I will tell you this. There was times in my head where I was like, and this is my process through the whole military. I was like, well, I don't have to be here. Like that's one thing about maybe being a younger person going to the military as for being a older person. I personally I didn't care if you're gonna fire me and send me home, then I'll just go right back to work. You know what I mean? That doesn't phase me. I will find work. You know what I mean? I will provide for my family. That never phased me. That I was gonna get kicked out or something like that. Wherever I go, I'm gonna work. Um, but there was a thing once you got to RIP where you realize when you see these guys, just the way they talk, the way they performed,
The
and
instructors, you mean?
the instructors, yeah, and the way they carried themselves. I don't know much about the military, but I could see the difference between them and a regular army. Same rankers or types. So I could see it, and then the way these other guys that were there, the way the things they were saying, how I'm not saying you're better by no means, but the 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 opportunity that you have, don't waste it type kind of talk. I was like, well, if this is a good opportunity, no matter how I landed over here, let me not waste it. And
Hmm.
so, again, just tell me what to do, and then I'll go do it.
So, what did you? At the time we went, the it was 4 weeks, right? Because
Yeah.
it had the marksmanship component. So, I mean, anything from that time sticks out to you
Talking about RIP.
from RIP?
Um, that was my second time through. I remember I failed the first one. I failed the a written exam. Remember that? And man, me and books just didn't go well. Or now, I think, but I've
So
and
you recycled your
and that's what.
first.
But yeah, I recycled me and the other guy that went with me, and then two other dudes that we took it lightly. I think the test part because we all felt the same thing, and then and then we did it again. But here's the thing: I could have left. I could have gone like 10 minute why whatever. But
Hmm.
it was that sense that wait a second, these guys carry themselves different. Like I wanted that beret. I
Mm.
wanted to feel what it was like to be in that group. That taste of it. I wanted it. So now I'm like, let's do it again. And we did it again. And the first time was horrible. I never experienced anything like that. Um, and then the second time was also bad, but I think maybe for me, I was like, I knew, I knew kind of what to expect. I'm sure for you it was different, but, uh, uh, but I mean, other than, we went through the same stuff. So nothing, I just wanted to get it done.
So you got it done the second go around.
Yes, sir.
It happens. Um, at the end of it, they do assignments. They do
Mhm.
they do the battalion assignments. And I remember what I remember from our battalion assignment time is that we were seated in rows, and then they like threw like one of the instructors just threw they had the patches, right, the patches, he just threw them, and then people were like scrambling over desks to get them if they wanted them. That's how I remember it.
Yeah.
um and my story was I I'm sure I told you about this, but the night before I had a dream that I was
Yeah.
holding on to a giant third bat patch. What was You and I barely knew each other, but at
Yeah.
that point, one or two run-ins.
Yeah.
But but what? Why third? Why not try to go for one of the other ones?
I consider, man, again, I consider myself just lucky to be there
Mm-hmm.
among them. I could feel that I was among better men than me, better men than I was before I came in, better men than I was at that moment. I was like, wherever I go, I don't care if it's first, second, or third, as long as I'm among these men and be part of it. So I don't mean whatever I grab, I just grab them. I didn't. So wherever I go, I want to be part of this group, and I want to do the best I can to stay in this group. And that was it. There really wasn't any. I didn't know the history of it either first, second, or third.
Which is why you recycled, because you didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's precisely the problem.
I guess
That's,
precisely the
that's
problem. Nice.
so you throw on the tam, and we're getting close to ending here. You throw on the tambourine. I
Mhm.
mean, it to some people it's going to sound absurd to them, the idea that you didn't know you were joining the airborne infantry at first.
Yeah,
You just on a whim did the ranger thing, too scared to quit, too too scared to quit, too motive then then saw something, you were like, okay, I want to do this. um and I don't know, is that even possible today nowadays? I don't know. And by the way, let's remind folks, this was like the internet was around, but it's like nowadays any question anyone has, they're like, well, just Google it, right?
yeah,
Go figure it out. Back then, that wasn't exactly possible,
yeah,
right? So it's completely conceivable that you could have this sort of journey, and then there you are, you throwing on the tam beret and getting ready to go. Um,
yeah.
and what was that feeling like whenever you were, you know, whenever you graduated, Rip?
Oh man, I was just happy I was done with it. That's for sure. And then I think the feeling is that I can't explain it to anybody. Not anybody I knew. Maybe you guys, but I couldn't call my dad. Hey, my dad was like, okay, well, is that work? That's my dad's kind of. Are you working? I'm like, yeah, man, I'm working. But I got a tambourine, and they're like, oh, they don't know. Nobody in my family knows what the Rangers are. They don't even know how the army works at the time.
Right.
I didn't either. So there's nobody really to explain it to at the time, but I know. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And
Right.
as long as I know that at that moment I am better 100 times than I uh was it like 4 months prior to that or wherever the hell I was before I joined. You know what I mean? Before I left to
Mm-hmm.
Fort Benning. I'm better. I'm better than I was then. And it's one of those feelings that I don't forget because I knew where I was in life before I left to the military. I wasn't a bad person, but I wasn't gonna go anywhere. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there was nothing to be proud of other than my kids. I love my kids, but uh, but not for myself. At that moment, I was like, man, I know that not a lot of people can make it to where I am right now. I saw a lot of people quit. I saw a lot of people quit while we were going through it. Um, but I made it. So let's keep going to where I no longer can.
Inspiring.
And
Ins-
very inspiring.
Indubitably. So what we'll do is we're gonna pick up in the
Okay.
next episode. We're gonna talk. You're on a cloud. You're riding high, and we'll
Yes.
talk. We'll talk about. You can explain to folks what it's like whenever you show up to your unit because
Yes.
you're an. I mean, we were experts then, right? We were fully trained, ready to go,
Killing machines.
killing machines. So certainly when we showed up to BCO
Yes.
375, they
Oh
welcome
man.
us with open arms.
Yes, sir.
So we'll pick up there in the next
Lovely.
one.
All right.
Thanks everyone for listening.
Yes, sir.
We'll catch you later.
I know.